Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pull Up with Limbs and Things. My name is Dr. Chanel James, and I'm the owner of Limbs and Things Mobile and Telehealth Physical Therapy Practice, serving DC, Maryland, and Virginia senior citizens or aging adults. So tonight we have on Pull Up with Limbs and Things my high school, middle school, and elementary school
Yeah,
classmate, Michael
very long
Bennett.
time.
Exactly. He is a medical fitness trainer, and he is a graduate of the University of Oklahoma and Howard University, where he has his biotech as well as sports medicine background and mechanical engineering. Michael, welcome to Pull Up with Limbs and Things. How are you?
Doing very well.
Good. So tell us a little bit about how you transitioned from the engineering field into personal training. I know in school you were very active with track and field, but
Yes.
maybe your love for athletics. So tell us a little bit about that.
So definitely, I've been on this road for a very long time. One of the ways I really got started really in the industry was my love of sports and athletics. Been a track and field
Hmm.
athlete since I was, I think, roughly about 8 years old, 9 years old. Um, and then throughout high school, ended up starting coaching. I moved through down at Shepherd, and then in college, I ended up getting certified as a personal trainer. One of the
Okay.
things it was a way to make some money, but also it was a way to further my understanding of overall the profession, as
Hmm.
well as really understand what I was doing as a collegiate athlete. And then further moving on from there, um, recently started off just working with young men and women that were in their um, either in high school or in college or the early 20s. And then from there, um, really the college, it moved into working in gyms, and I really started working with people that were had one mobility functions. So with that, my overall focus has really been focused on biomechanics, where I really have gone through both a sense of training, but also research focused on biomechanics, where you're looking at focus on motor learning or focused on biomotor abilities and things along those lines. Then I've done some research as well and had training in physiology. So really, that's kind of how I've moved into this space of physical training, because really, there's a lot of things people can do where I work with clientele where they have had a knee injury and
Hmm.
they have gone to physical therapists, similar to yourself, and they worked with them for a few weeks or a few months. Then they were either still on a cane or they may have had minor pain a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, and they weren't on a walker or they weren't on a wheelchair, but they were not quite where they could be.
Got it.
Once
So,
they work with me, they can go through a process of working over building their body, building their strength for a multi-year process with a systematic program, really based on the base science, really of biomechanics, motor learning, and physiology.
got it. Okay. So tonight, anybody who's watching, we thank you for watching. Put in the comments if you have ever seen a personal trainer. So you can put personal trainer or yes or why if you've seen a personal trainer before. I actually have not. I have never been to personal training, but I know a lot about it, of course, from physical therapy, but also working alongside of therapists who also are athletic trainers. So
Sure.
tell us a little bit about what it means to be a medical fitness trainer.
So really, this is an area where there is not a whole lot of people, but there is a lot of movement overall in the healthcare industry to really recognize exercise as a mode of treatment. So when you have somebody that is going to a physician and they're 150 pounds, 200 pounds overweight,
Mhm.
well, normally with a physician, you really only have one of two options. Normally, the normal first option is to recommend somebody to exercise and eat healthier. and they give them some general recommendations and guidelines. All of it's very good, but if you have recommendations and guidelines, but with no overall direct assessments or with no actual follow through on how to go through the program, then it's very hard for that person to really lose weight or to get that major goal of losing 150 pounds or 200 pounds. That may take 18 or 24 months, so sometimes more. And at the same time, too, you do have people that have different metabolic conditions like type 2 diabetes, or they have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, or they have heart disease. And these are all things that can be managed by improving your overall health, by improving your fitness, by improving your wellness. And really, in this subspecialty of medical fitness training, really allows people that do have a medical condition or are senior citizen to actually be able to improve their health so they can live a overall healthy, fit, and well active life. So oftentimes I get referrals from physicians, I get referrals from therapists fairly regularly, or I may work in consult with physiotherapists or physicians to make sure at the end of the day the actual client and patient has best results, so they can be healthy, they can be strong, and not be on a walker, not be in a cane, not be in a wheelchair, or not be on a whole cabinet full of medication, which oftentimes may happen.
Right. So that sounds a lot like what I do as a physical therapist. So to clarify for everyone, would you say that physical therapists deal more with the acute setting of helping people to improve to the point where they are at a maintenance level, and then you can take over as a medical fitness trainer?
Exactly. It is really 100% kind of where it is. If somebody has an injury, if I'm working with somebody and I see a regression, so let's say I'm working with somebody who has Parkinson's disease, and they're making improvement over a 6-month time frame, but all of a sudden in the span of 2 weeks, I see there is regression. Either they're doing more tapping or they're having a hard time initiating movement. Then my first thing would be to tell them to reach out to the doctor, and also to look at referring them back to a physical therapist to actually get that direct services when they're having a regression, or they have an injury where they pull a muscle, or they have some soft tissue injury, or a heart tissue injury. Then a physical therapist and a physician would be the first people to work with, and let me just be like a referral where they will go through them for those services and come back to me, or me working consult where they would have look for services of a physical therapist and for services of a physician. Like I have a friend of mine that also we refer clients to the Metro Hospital and the Cliff Nelson. And oftentimes if somebody does have some injuries, or they do have a challenge with knee pain, and it goes on much more than about a week or two, and normal kind of rest, ice, compression, elevation doesn't really help, then have them go see a physician, and then have them go to physical therapy. Then they go through that process for that 3 weeks to 12 weeks or more. Then you get discharged, or during the end of that process, then they may return to me, and I work in consult with the physical therapist. Because the physical therapist definitely has as you know, a very wide wealth of experience in the area. But then kind of after that, that's what I come in, really for performance enhancement, not just kind of like rehab, but more so post-rehab, functional training for performance enhancement to have you reach your overall best, regardless of age. Whether you're 10 years old and you're a little kid, or whether you're 110 years old, help you be your best. But if you have an injury, you need a physical therapist, or you need to go to a physician to get the diagnostics. And I think kind of me when that is stabilized, when you're no longer in that real emergency. And then also for me, also work with a lot of people that are morbidly obese. People that are morbidly obese, they can refer to me either from bariatric physicians or from their primary care physicians to help them manage the condition. So sometimes it may be a first line of first mode of treatment for some physicians, where they hold off and put on the medication to see if they can manage their blood sugar or lower their A1C by improving exercise. And basically the difference for them would be they have a actual structured program that would say, this is who you go to give you a program. Then I would do the full assessment for the customer. Then I would send my report back to the physician with my recommended overall program, and we work in consult. So at the end of the day, they have the best results, what they're looking for.
Gotcha. So with physical perfection, are you doing meal plans as well to help people to achieve their goals?
Yeah, so we do definitely do meal planning. Most of it stands in a kind of space of saying nutritional counseling. So giving them overall structure of what it is to eat healthy, what kind of macronutrients you want to have, carbohydrate profiles you want to have, then give them a good structure. Then if there is some people that need direct, what they consider medical nutrition therapy, then I do have a number of dietitians that I do refer to. So there are some that specialize in metabolic conditions, like diabetes educators. Then there are other ones that specialize in oncology, some specialize in bariatrics. Then even you have some more specialized ones that deal with different conditions like things like neurology, or people that have epilepsy, and any different number of varying dietary programs that are really geared to treat a direct medical condition. What I do for nutritional counseling, being a nutritionist, really is just focused on giving them a good structure and some overall guidance that they can follow. And there is definitely a plan, but it's an overall structure that may help with some of the conditions that they're dealing with.
Okay. So I know a few of you all are watching and you're asking questions. And so if you have a question about anything that we're talking about, or just a question in general, please put them in the chat. There is a question so far. How does PT and physical training intersect? You or me?
Go ahead, start.
Well, I think we kind of hit on it a little bit. So at LimbsNThings, I'm not necessarily like the typical physical therapist, from the sense that I do see people in their home or in the park, in the grocery store, anywhere there may be a need for you to improve your function. And then I work on trying to help you get to your best level. And then Michael would probably, with being a physical trainer, would probably come in to help you continue to maintain that level or take you up to another height, but it would be longer than the time that you would be with me.
Yes. That is right along the lines of what I was saying. So
okay.
As you kind of alluding to, your process may be a matter of weeks or a matter of months. My process for a lot of my clients is either 9 months on the short end, 6 to 9 months on the short end, but I've had clients that have been with me for 5, 6, and 7, and 10 years, to where over time they've gone through the weight loss process, where they've lost pounds, and they've gone through building muscle, and they've gone through overall improving their performance year after year, session to session, month after month, to where they continue improving, because there really is no real stopping point where you can really go. There is a lot of things you can do over time, and that is very, very true. Even for my senior citizen clients, I have some clients now that I work with that came to me originally for dealing with Parkinson's or dealing with stroke, and they had gone to physical therapy. And actually, one of my clients, he ended up, one very good example is he had some regressions where it happened over the course of about 3 sessions, where doing his walking, doing a more warm up, you saw him dragging his feet, or you saw his knees were dropping. He was shaking a little bit as far as his torso, forward and back movement. And then that was something that he had not done basically since our first session. So he hadn't done that for roughly about 9 or 10 months. And then from there, I referred him to go back to see his neurologist and the neurosurgeon found out he ended up having another minor stroke, and he had some bleeding on the brain. Basically, it was hematoma, and
Yeah.
it basically showed up when I was doing the normal daily assessment and note taking. I saw the same thing coming up, and it got worse over 3 sessions. He went to his to physicians, and then they were able to kind of manage it and um, definitely kind of look at it. And then he went actually to the hospital for about 2 weeks, and then he came
Mm-hmm.
3 months later. So that's a normal process that may happen when those kind of situations happen. They'll go back to the physician, then physical therapy, then they come back to me.
Yeah. And what I was going to say too, a lot of times we hire physical trainers, but we don't hire the ones that can actually notice when something's going on with you.
Sure.
And the fact that you were able to see that and to refer him back to someone who could help him most immediately is more of a reason, I think, to see someone that's a medical fitness trainer.
Yes. So you have a
Oh yeah,
few
I will see you. Go ahead, say it again.
comments there.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I'm coming over to them. Okay, so
Great.
can I lose weight with just working out and not eating right?
So I'll definitely touch on this one. One of the main things that it really is needed to have the best results, you got to have both. You can definitely lose weight by doing either increasing caloric expenditure or by reducing caloric intake. Basically meaning either you
Mm-hmm.
exercise more or you eat less. You're going to lose weight. Um, if you have a calorie deficit. But the requirement is for you to have any kind of physiological change or any kind of performance enhancement, you have to have some kind of stimulus. So you need to have a right stimulus on your body to have actual physiological change. So to get stronger, you actually got to lift. So we got to do strength training to get stronger. If you just eat less, you will not get stronger because you're not actually having a stimulus to cause your body to adapt to a change. There's something that is called the um, one of the effects is um, overall where you're looking at when you are going through the process of training, you do have some drop in your overall performance. Then you have to have an adaptation to actually rise to a high level performance.
Right.
So if you actually exercise, you have to get better. And to eat right, you have to eat right to have the results. Because if you don't have the actual energy, if you don't have the actual nutrition there, you won't have the amino acids or the protein to build muscle. So you won't get as strong as you can be. Or you may get injured and have overtraining issues because you don't have the protein or the amino acids needed to actually um, to improve. So you really have to have both go hand in hand. And that's really why your best bet is to work for expert like Dr. Chanel James or myself, Michael K. Bennett.
I agree. All right. Is there any formal training or education to be a personal trainer?
Yes, there is definitely. The first thing you need to do is you need to, um, so it's best to go through a formal academic training so you can get some understanding of the base of what background knowledge of the science, but then you do have to have the application. So you have to get a certification in personal fitness training or one of the subspecialties like exercise, or you do quick exercise, things along those lines, where you actually have the science as applied to a particular training modality. So you learn how to do the assessments, you learn different assessment protocols to do and actually study. Then you go through how to design training programs and all those kind of things that you may not get in a course about kinesiology or a course about biomechanics or a course about physiology. But in a certification, you take that base knowledge, then you apply that to the actual work that you do. So
Okay.
definitely that's kind of where it goes there.
Okay. How long does the training take to be a personal trainer?
So when you do your starting of our programs, as far as academic degrees, it definitely is like a normal 4-year degree that you would do at university. some people do associate degrees, but once you get your base science like I did, sports medicine, um,
Mm-hmm.
then you move on to doing a certification, and most of them take anywhere between 6 months to a year. Um,
Okay.
some of the ones through the National Academy of Sports Medicine take
Mm-hmm.
roughly about a year. Once you do your actual coursework, then you do your actual um, further study, which is going to doing like an internship that you take about a
Yeah.
year. And then you also have some through the American College of Sports Medicine, and they have some that go closer to 2 years. Um, and there are some programs that actually do encompass one of the certifications, like the exercise physiologist certification that is offered by American College of Sports Medicine. They do have
Mm-hmm.
some programs that do have that be one of your final examinations when you're ready to graduate.
Okay. So here's a question.
Yeah,
Is it really 90% healthy eating and 10% fitness when it comes to weight loss?
that's not really accurate. Um, you really have to have both go hand in hand. So it really is almost 50-50. But the biggest thing that is really important is your desire and your motivation and your dedication to follow the process. Because it is the hardest thing to do is to go from day one to day two. Then from day seven of your first week to day eight. Then continue from the first month, second month, then continuing throughout the entire process. Because it's a long process. If you try to lose 100 pounds, it's not going to happen in 30 days. It won't happen in 90 days. It's going to take time.
Mhm.
So you have
So
to be in
let's
that.
talk about that. How many pounds should you lose a week that's considered healthy?
So the average person can lose 1 to 2 pounds a week. That's a pretty normal thing you're looking at because that's roughly a calorie deficit of between 500 and 1,000 calories a day, where you actually are going to have a expenditure of um, roughly that's like cutting out a meal, cutting out a small meal of how many calories.
Mm-hmm.
So you just burn a little more than what you eat. That's generally pretty easy to do, not very hard for most people. Um, if you are pushing it a little harder from the standpoint of exercise, where you get into a 2 or 3 or 4 hour kind of a day exercise programs, then you may have a calorie deficit of 2 or 3,000 calories per day. But my recommendation always for people is instead of trying to cut your calories down very low, I would actually push the overall caloric expenditure high versus trying to go low in calories because that's the easier way and actually going to give you more results from the overall program. You improve your fitness, you improve your health, improve your performance while you actually are losing weight.
Okay, say that in layman's terms so everybody can get it.
So, what I always recommend doing is really focusing on increasing your exercise, increasing your activity, versus trying to eat less and just trying to have smaller and smaller portions.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get very, very small food intake, that's when you get to a point of like anorexia. And you have a lot of metabolic conditions that are going to cause you major health issues. So it's better to actually exercise more, go for a longer walk, or do some strength training, do some jump rope, go for a bike ride, play some
Yeah.
basketball or whatever things you may enjoy doing. Or if you like dancing, go to the club and dance. If you like doing that, or put some music on and do some salsa or whatever you may want to do to actually increase your overall activity versus just trying to eat less. You do want
Yeah.
to eat healthy and you want to have a good overall nutrition and good overall macronutrients for what you eat and how much you're eating and the type of food you're eating. But it's always best to have more exercise and more activity than it's eat less.
Right. And it sounds like it doesn't have to be formal exercise, right? We can just move throughout the day and reduce
Sure.
our calories.
Yes, and
Right.
even my standpoint, I've had clients that have worked 16, 17, 18-hour days, or they have crazy days where they worked 21, 22-hour days in a hospital. But
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell a client to go home and exercise for an hour to 2 hours at
Right, it's
home
not happening.
21 hours. So
Mm-hmm.
what that client did, because she was the medical director at a local hospital, so what she did was she would exercise in the hallway. She was in she was
Mm-hmm.
at the office. She would do kettlebell swings. She was at the elevator. She would do squat holds. She would walk down the hallway. She would do lunges. She'll
Mm-hmm.
wait for somebody to come down for a meeting. She'd do push-ups on the wall, and she ended up finding different exercises she would do throughout the day. So I gave her a list of like 20 exercises to do. She had to do 30 reps of each of them, and she had to finish them by the entire day.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, she actually had finished her entire workout, where it ended up being close to that 60 minutes that she was supposed to do. And then she walked about 4 or 5 miles for the hospital. So she was able to kind of integrate her exercise throughout the entire day without having
Right.
a separate time frame. So even if you
Yeah.
have a busy schedule, where you have a busy life, where you have children, busy work, like yourself only a business, that's very tough. But you can definitely make it happen
Yeah.
because it work.
Yeah, I think that's so important that you try to integrate exercise into your routine on a regular basis because it can be difficult to try to set aside time. So here's another question: is a personal trainer better to utilize to lose weight than going on a diet?
In my opinion, yes, because most diets look at trying to do caloric restriction, but you do want to have proper nutrition. So it is worthwhile to see a licensed nutritionist to get a structured program and then have them have that program match what the personal fitness trainer is actually giving you. Because if you have two different programs and they don't match up, they you end up being a person actually is losing. You're not going
Mm,
to, they may have a good program here and a good program here, but they don't match up. Then you end up crossing, and the person in the middle is the one that loses.
right.
So you want to make sure that everything does match up. Um, when you have a structured exercise program, anybody you work with that's supposed to be an expert in this area should give you a structured program. So they should not be kind of off the cuff going through, because you should have a full assessment. They should be able to explain to you what it is that is going on, where your starting point is, where you're trying to go, and then go through the overall plan of what it is, week by week, month by month, or what it takes to reach your goal. And then what are possible goals to happen after you get to that point B, which is really comes into play of really doing annual planning or doing a full plan for the structure, where you have all your work that you're doing your own, work that you do together, but it have to be planned out to get to awful results.
Hmm.
Same nutrition has to match too.
Got it. Why do muscle cramps occur when you work out?
Chanel, do you want to start this one?
Usually we refer to it as lactic acid building up in your muscles. And so you can combat it with stretching before you exercise. You can combat it with staying hydrated. Gatorade, Powerade, anything that replaces your electrolytes will help to decrease the chances of having cramps, but they'll also reduce them if you're having an active cramp
Sure,
too.
sure. That is definitely very good. And I will add to that, one of the things that does happen in actual muscle itself is you have to have the electrolytes have to charge the system to actually be able to allow the muscle to contract. If you don't have the electrolytes there, you will not be able to have the electrical impulse, won't be able to go through the muscle itself to allow the muscle to contract and also relax voluntarily. So you have a involuntary contraction, which is a cramp. I did
So
see
it's
one.
still happening after you're stretching. It may be the type of stretch that you're doing too, because there's a such thing as a sustained stretch and those that are movement oriented stretching. And so it depends on what you're about to do, the type of stretch that you do.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay, let's see.
There was one here.
Here's one.
Okay,
What
sure.
would a personal trainer suggest to a person who has lost weight through a nutritionist and the cost is too high? Is their exercise ability and their exercise ability is limited. So I'll say it again. What would a personal trainer suggest to a person who has lost weight through a nutritionist and the cost is too high and their exercise ability is limited?
Well, one thing for a starting point, and this is a very good question, is when you are working with a nutritionist, then when you have lost the weight, then find out what are the recommendations for you to be discharged. So when you are kind of like for maintenance, you may better come back quarterly or bi-yearly or even once a year for a follow-up. But what are the kind of recommendations for you to live your life for as a overall nutritional program? With the exercise, there really is a need to kind of do a full assessment first, then be able to start the program and find out what is it that we really need to work on. What are the challenges you're having? Are you having problems with balance? Are you having problems with muscular strength, muscle control? Is it flexibility? All different varying areas that can be improved and that kind of can be worked on week after week, month after month. And wherever you start in that, that's fine. You can start there, then you can improve and make improvements week after week. If there is a major challenge where you really are not ready for full exercise programs that don't require you to be fully supported, meaning with a walker or with apparatus, then definitely somebody like Dr. Chanel James would be somebody that you refer to. If you came to me and you're not able to walk more than 2 feet without being a walker, then definitely Dr. James is who you want to go to. Then maybe work with her for 12 weeks. Then you come to me, and she'll be able to tell me all that you have done, and then kind of what are the next steps she's looking to have happen, and we work together to have the wall built for you. Because we make sure overall that you're at your best. We want you to be at your best. It doesn't matter where the athlete is you see in the gym or the guy in the gym that's a bodybuilder or whatnot. That's fine. That's good for them. But you want to be at your best. You want to be at your best, and that's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm. There's another one. I have back problems from a car accident. I'm no longer able to do even the simplest of workouts without being in pain. For example, walking for 25 to 30 minutes and is a struggle most days. What would you recommend?
Yeah. So, Dr. James, I'll put them there.
It sounds like you need a therapist, a physical therapist.
Yeah, that'd be definitely be a good thing to say. My opinion as well too is it may be worthwhile to go to a physician to get a definitive diagnosis. Normally, somebody like this come to me, I would say get a definitive diagnosis if they have unexplained back pain that's been going on for obviously multiple years. Get a definitive diagnosis. Then you kind of go through physical therapy, then move on from there. If there is no diagnosis, just kind of like a weak muscles, then you improve strength from there. But definitely, a therapist will be where you start with.
Yeah. So, Mike, I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
How do you prefer to give people encouragement? Because there is a lot of times that you have different personality types, and people tend
Sure.
to want personal trainers to push them, but they don't want to be pushed too much. You have people who
Sure.
want to be pushed hard. What's your method for someone who's an aging adult?
It's a fine balance. You always want to have kind of positive reinforcement at the kind of global scale. And that's really the biggest thing that you want to have. Because when you're looking at how do you encourage them to have long-term success, the only way to have long-term success is if it becomes a intrinsic motivation, meaning they want it for themselves. The actual individual has to want it for themselves. So for me, always encouragement always works best. Now there are sometimes people are not doing their best. They're not pushing hard enough, or they're missing sessions, or they starting 30 minutes late, or or they didn't do their 3 workouts I gave them while they were on vacation or whatnot. So during that time frames, then you have to have some more serious conversations, more stern push, because you want them to be the best. You say things along the lines of, you can do more. Your body's fine. You're strong. You can do it. And reality is, if you're a professional, if you're an expert in the field, and I'm sure it's the same for you, Dr. Chanel James, that you would know most times what the actual patient can do. There's not going to be a whole lot of question of what they can do. So there may be one time out of maybe 100 where they may have overestimated what they can do, but most times what's prescribed is what they can do. So you say, you can do it. Push a little more. Keep going. Knees up higher, or get deep in the squat, or whatever it is that is encouraging to push them through. And then you say, and then when they finish, good job. Now, if they're having a hard time, most times you can see it. Either posture wanes, they almost control wanes. You see all the kind of signs that kind of give you a key of there is something going on. Either it is that they're physically fatigued from like an energy system challenge where they actually ran out of some energy, or it's a nervous system issue where they need a little bit of a nervous system rest, where they're trying to push and their nervous system is having a hard time keeping up. So occasionally you still count things, and you act accordingly, and you give them that 30 seconds rest or a minute rest that they may need, then you start again. And even sometimes if you have a workout and you can't do all that you had planned because they need more rest, or they're a little more fatigued than you planned, then you stop it after 30 minutes or after 5 exercises instead of doing 10 or whatever the case.
Yeah. So at Physical Perfection, I know you do virtual sessions as well as in person. I think a lot of people think that personal trainers are only in gyms, right? We think we have to meet you at a location where we can use the equipment that you have. So I want to find out from you, what's a myth that you want to clarify about personal trainers?
Well, the one thing I would definitely say about personal training, it is not about somebody being strong or being buff or whatnot, or being real sexy or real fit, because you oftentimes do see in gyms, most of the personal trainers you see in the average gym, like a LA Fitness or the former Bally's or things along those lines, most of them are very young and very new in the industry. Mind you, I used to work there, so I ended up becoming the manager pretty early on. But what you end up having there is you have a lot of people that that unfortunately are doing it either as a part-time job, or they're doing it in between jobs, and it ends up not being very high quality. What you really want to find out, and this is when you're looking for this kind of service, interview who you're looking for, find out what it they can offer, what's their experience level, and then also how do they work with you, what's the rapport with you, how do you work together, and then are they the person that's really going to help you be your best. So I mean, you don't have to be in a gym to see a personal trainer. You don't have to even need equipment. You can exercise using your own body weight. There's a lot you can do using your own body weight, and that's actually most times what you'll start with. That be considered general strength or body exercises. Then you have balance training, and there's a whole lot of different things that use only your body weight that are varying degrees of actual intensity and challenge. Anything from just doing simple stand up from a chair or stand up to doing squat jumps and doing frog jumps. We consider plyometrics. So there's a whole long spectrum of things you can do only your body weight. And when you have people at your home, you can easily have a personal fitness trainer come to your home to offer services. One of the main things I do for a lot of my clients, I go to the home. So I bring the service right to them. And I bring all the equipment that is needed. If we need a agility ladder for that day, that's what I bring. If I need medicine balls, or I need dumbbells or barbells or whatever equipment is needed, then you bring that. But one thing I will always say is you cannot start a program unless you know where you're starting from. And you have to also have a plan. because if you don't have a plan, then one of the big main sayings that I would say is true for training is if you don't have a plan, you plan to fail because you don't know where you're going. You get some direction, but you don't know where you're going. So you start on Monday and you say, okay, I want to do chest. Then you come back on Tuesday. Oh, I want to do more chest. So you from benched, then you go to push-ups. Then you come back Wednesday, like, oh, well, I feel like I'm doing squats. So you do squats. Then you come back Thursday, then you do deadlifts. So literally, you've done the same exercise 2 days in a row the entire week. And then you may come back, take off 2 weeks, then do the same thing. You're not going to get real results. You really have to have a program. And even personal training, you really need to have a program that goes the entire life of what your goal is, your first goal, from where you start in that to where you want to go, to point A to point B, and then have each thing planned out in an appropriate microcycles and meso and those macrocycles. Basically, that means is very small segments, then middle segments, and also long segments, where you can plan out what is your goal for each of those things. So for your session, you should know what your goal is for the session. Are you trying to improve your overall maximal strength? Are you trying to improve your energy utilization? Are you trying to improve your balance? Are you trying to improve your muscle control? What's the goal for that session? And then you know for your week, what's your goal for that week? And then you maybe have a goal for the month. But what are your goals you're trying to accomplish this month or on this period? So maybe a 3-month period. What are you trying to accomplish during these time frames? And that's really kind of how you work it to really make sure that you know where you're going with it. What are you trying to do? And improve over time.
Got it. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us, Michael. Tell us a little bit about how we can find Physical Perfection Fit, and anything else you want to leave as a final thought.
Sure. Well, Chanel, Dr. Chanel James, it definitely was a pleasure being here with you today. Thank you for inviting me, and
Sure.
it was good to answer these questions with some of your viewers here today. And we definitely love to do further broadcasts with you here in the future. One of the main things that it definitely is important is it's never too late to start. Wherever you are starting from, you can always improve. So there's no better day to start than today. So if you want to get healthier, if you want to get strong, if you want to get fitter, then make that your start today. Reach out, make a phone call, and connect. So we'll give my information here. So my information is, my website is physicalperfection.fit. I'm gonna see if I can type it in here and give it to you all easily. I'll type it in there. So www.physicalperfection.fit. My phone number is 202-730-9300. So you can reach out to me there. Definitely keep in contact. I would love to work with you. There's a lot you can do. And also give my email address as well too.
And Michael, you see people all over the country, right? All over DC and
so I have
abroad.
Yeah, so there is a number of clients I work with locally and internationally. So most of my clients here locally are people that I work with direct for fitness training in person. A lot of them are my fitness training clientele, but I have clients throughout the entire country that either have come to me for some services, and then they are remote clients that work with me online through my online training platform. Fit, and then I also do a lot of consulting. So I have other fitness trainers and coaches that I have worked with for different things where they want to learn how do they do this process, how do they go about really working with clients and really getting these results. So I work with people all over. So there's no limit to what you can do, and there's no bad time to start.
All right. So thank you so very much.
Love to work with you.
Same here. I want to thank you all for joining us. Again, this is Pull Up with Limbs and Things. So it's to challenge something you know, to confirm something you know, and then to help you to share that information with someone else. Have a great evening.
See you later.